Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Tyler from Podcast Now, and today I'm analyzing and showing you things that you missed in the Avengers Infinity War official trailer. So it kicks off on a planet that doesn't really look too much like Earth, but it could be Earth. I'm not really sure. And then we see a shot of Tony Stark, and he's really upset. Now, what we do know is later on in the trailer, it's kind of hinted. But what we also know, though, is that from the Comic-Con trailer that kind of leaked, and you might have seen it, that Spider-Man, as we see in the trailer, takes on Thanos, loses. And in the Comic-Con trailer, though, we see Spider-Man laying on the ground, maskless, bloodied, beat up, and Tony Stark is holding his hand, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Tony." And they're kind of showing like, well, Spider-Man might die. We obviously know Spider-Man's not going to die, because they're already making another Spider-Man movie. That's already greenlit. There's supposedly going to be three, at least three. So we know he's not going to die. But that's what that scene is going to tie into. And it's clearly yellowy background with ashes or something. And the reason that I think the planet in the beginning of the movie is not Earth is because I believe that's the planet that Tony, Spider-Man, Thanos, and others will be on. And I'm going to connect it in a minute. So then, moving on, we see Bruce Banner in human form. It looks like he fell into a basement, and then we see a shot of Doctor Strange and Wong, and you can see he fell basically through many floors in this building. And I believe we later find out, when we see a shot of Doctor Strange, Wong, Tony Stark, and Bruce Banner, in the sanctum, Doctor Strange's sanctum, it looks like there's a hole through the stairs. So what I believe happened was basically, because obviously how does Hulk / Bruce Banner get to Earth? Because we know that he is with Thor and Loki and Valkyrie on the ship with the other Asgardians. So how is Bruce Banner on Earth? I believe that what's possible is that Tony Stark kind of gets wind that Thanos is coming, or something along those lines, and basically they're gonna need their Hulk again. I believe that Tony Stark is the one who has Doctor Strange use like a portal or whatever to pull Bruce Banner back, and he does it right there. Kind of falls through the whole entire sectorium, and that's how that happens. So the scene right here where Bruce has like a suit on and all that stuff, I believe that's after. They probably put clothes on him or whatever. And so we also see the Vision in human form, and you kind of see a little gem on his head. That's the soul gem that Thanos needs, and he's human. So there's two things that are possible here, because later in the trailer we see that Thanos' Black Order is trying to take the soul gem out of the Vision's head. Now, either they do that and they're successful, and it, for whatever reason, turns the Vision human, and it's just like a little bit of a like it was on him for so long, because it's been a few years now. It's been on him for so long that it just kind of a little bit became a part of him. Or, and that's not what I believe, this is what I believe, or Vision is able to, just like he's able to add the cape, he's able to kind of shapeshift, and that's the form that he chooses to take when he's with Scarlet Witch. And that's more likely what happens. So I believe that this scene happens before the Vision gets the soul gem ripped. Now we see a hairy arm, which this would be a great spot for a shaving type of sponsor that we don't have. So there isn't one. But this is Peter Parker's arm, and this is basically a spider sense. And he looks out the window, and what does he see? He sees a big, round, alien type device. Now, at first I thought this is an alien ship. Then I realized this is not an alien ship. It is an alien craft or device, however. What I believe this is a portal. And it's going to be a portal that Thanos uses to be able to get to different locations on the planet or planets quicker. And basically the Avengers are just going to be something that gets in his way. So what I believe happens, so this is a portal that he's able to not only send possibly an alien legion, maybe the Black Order, through, as well as himself, it also allows the Avengers to go through the portal as well. So that's what I think that is. And the reason that makes sense is because we obviously know that Spider-Man is on that, what I'm calling a portal. He's on that portal. And we know that Spider-Man fights Thanos on that yellowy type world, as well as Thanos fights Iron Man on that yellowy type world. And so that means that Tony Stark goes there. And what else do we know from the Comic-Con trailer that we'll never see? But we'll see scenes probably in the next trailer from it. We also know that Doctor Strange ends up on that planet as well as Star-Lord. Now, I don't know how this is going to connect to Star-Lord other than maybe they go through a portal, but I'm not really sure. But what I do know is in the Comic-Con trailer, Doctor Strange is making platforms and Star-Lord's jumping on those different platforms. Now, that could be on a totally different planet when they fight Thanos. That's possible. Maybe Doctor Strange doesn't go through this portal. He goes through a different portal. I don't know. But what I do think happens is Tony Stark and Spider-Man do go through this portal to try to stop whatever they believe is going to come out before it can come out. That's what I believe happens. And the result is, Thanos beats the living heck out of Spider-Man and Iron Man. And now the other thing, too, to mention is that we can see that Tony Stark has the arc reactor on his chest. Now, what I believe that is, I don't believe, because obviously we know he no longer has that part of his body, of course. What I assume Tony Stark has done is placed these arc reactors either on multiple clothing or he can detach it and put it on clothing. And the reason I think he did that, I believe this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe's way of doing the bleeding edge armor, where in the comic, Tony was able to have the armor cover him biologically through his cells at will. All it took was like mind power. Now, they're not going to do that here, it doesn't look like. Now, this is similar, if you think about it, to how Black Panther's new suit is going to work. Where it kind of just starts to like melt on him. That would look too similar to what happens with Tony. So what did they probably do? They probably were like, well, maybe it just comes from the arc reactor itself. It bleeds, or it just like, the armor starts to come out of it and it just covers him, which probably explains the more sleek looking armor that Tony's seen wearing in Infinity War. We also see a bunch of dead bodies. At first, I thought these were humans, but then I realized that in the background, you see somebody with like a little bit of armor. You see somebody with some red markings, and it doesn't really look human. The little girl in the front, I realized that she's dressed a lot like the Asgardians. So what I assume happens is at the end, if you stayed to see the mid-credits of Thor Ragnarok, you would know that basically Thor, Loki, and all the gang, a massive ship ends up behind them. So what I assume happens is that ship is destroyed. That's how Thor ends up floating in space, even though we don't see that in this trailer, but we do see him interacting with the Guardians. Thor ends up floating in space. Loki probably didn't make it off. It's possible maybe Hulk was floating through space, and that's where Doctor Strange found him and pulled him through. That's possible. But anyway, so we see Loki walking over these dead Asgardians, and he presents the Tesseract probably to Thanos. Then we see Thanos basically taking the gem and placing it on the gauntlet, which is a different design, by the way. But if we look at Loki, you look at his lips, he looks like he's extremely parched. He is very thirsty. He just wants water in exchange for the Tesseract. That's all he wants. But the reason that's important that his lips are like that, I assume that the damage was so bad, and he was, I assume, stranded. And all these dead people, along with other people, I assume that, his lips being that way means like the only reason Loki's giving the Tesseract up to Thanos is not only because what's he going to do? It's just him. But it's just a means of survival. Now, when he took the Tesseract in Thor Ragnarok, I don't believe he had any intention on giving it to Thanos. I really don't. I believe that this is his bargaining chip where he's like, if I don't do this, I'm dead. And I really don't want to die. So if I do this, maybe he'll spare me and I'll actually live. Because it truly does look like he needs some help here in this scene. Now we see Thanos coming through this portal, and then when it's, when the portal disappears, we see the background. That three-pronged thing in the background is the same three-pronged thing in the background when he's fighting Iron Man. So I assume that's not on Earth. That is on the other planet. And he's using these portals that he probably set up to get place to place quickly. We get an amazing cinematic shot of Thor in the middle holding these things together. Or he's not holding them together. Maybe he's actually trying to break them apart. What might be happening here is there's two options again. What might be happening here is either Thor's acting as a battery between the ships to get his people, whoever's left, to safety faster. And like I said, and he's using himself as a battery. And he's able to do it, but he's kind of left behind and he's floating through space. That's option one. Option two is he's actually trying to split the ship in half. That doesn't really make sense because it looks like he's holding it together. But I don't really know. I guess we'll find out. So either way, he's doing it to protect whatever Asgardians are left after the devastation. Now we see Proxima Midnight throwing a spear at this mysterious figure. Who can it be? Oh, and it turns out it's Captain America. Who would have guessed? So he looks different. He's not really Captain America. He's Nomad. They're probably not going to call him that, but in the comics that happened. We see the full updated Hulkbuster armor in Wakanda. This is not Tony Stark. I don't believe anybody's mentioned this yet. This isn't Tony Stark. It's actually Bruce Banner in this Hulkbuster armor. And it makes sense because he's afraid, if you recall, he's afraid in Thor Ragnarok that if he turns into the Hulk, like if he keeps turning into the Hulk, he's afraid he won't be able to come back. Bruce Banner won't be able to come back. It's only going to be the Hulk. So Bruce Banner, he takes this Hulkbuster armor, updates it, and basically he's wearing it because it's as strong as the Hulk. Now, what probably is going to happen is the Hulkbuster armor is going to be destroyed. Bruce isn't going to have, or it's being destroyed, and all of a sudden, out of the Hulkbuster armor, the Hulk literally busts through this armor, but that would be a really cool scene. But I can pretty much foresee that happening, where he's getting mauled by all these aliens, and then all of a sudden, boom, like boom, boom, and then it just breaks through, and the Hulk comes right through the Hulkbuster armor. That would be really sweet. But yeah, that's Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster 100%, because we know that Iron Man is with Spider-Man on that other planet facing Thanos. It's probably happening almost at the same time. We see Black Widow, no longer Black Widow, but it's Black Widow, taking on probably Proxima Midnight in this scene. Doctor Strange is doing some magical stuff. And now we see these big pyramid, like very thin pyramids come down. What I think those are what these aliens are in. So these are probably what the aliens just are all gathered in, and then when they come down and like a door opens up and then they all start swarming out. So that's all. It's almost like it's basically like a big alien capsule. Holds them, and he drops them. Probably Thanos is having his Black Order drop them all over the planet just to cause distraction so that he can easily get the Infinity Stone, which he doesn't care what happens to the universe, because really he wants to cleanse the universe. So he wants to destroy it and start over. So we see Black Panther and Captain America fighting some of these creepy-looking aliens. And now we see, again, as I was saying before, we see Tony Stark visibly upset, visibly shaking, very sad, after probably what happens to Spider-Man via Thanos. And Thanos is probably just kind of like walking away, like he doesn't even care. Like it was just something in his way and he took it down, and then that's it, moving on. And that's probably when Tony Stark has the armor cover him, and then he decides to take on Thanos himself. And of course, he loses. Now we see a brand new looking Infinity Gauntlet. Probably not even going to explain that. It just looks way better than originally. And Marvel's come so far that I don't even mind if they do that kind of stuff, because they really didn't know what they were doing. And they knew where they were heading, but they didn't know they didn't know where they were going to end up. They did, but they didn't. They didn't know how big they were going to become. So it's okay for them to, change just minor things like the gauntlet. And really, the one in the vault in Asgard wasn't even real, so you can't even go buy that one. And you can't even go buy the design of that one. And the one in the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, you can't really see it all that well either. So really, they didn't really overwrite much. So you can see here that he has the time gem, which means that him seeing Loki and the Asgard thing, that's already happened, that's already passed. So he has the time gem, and he also has the space gem. So that means that he must have basically destroyed whatever was left of the Nova Corps, because that's the gem that was in the Guardians of the Galaxy 1. So he's only got a couple left. He doesn't have many, but he's still very powerful. And he no longer needs the armor. He no longer feels the need to wear armor. And the Russos have said this is more of a spiritual journey for Thanos. So it's going to be really interesting. And then finally we see basically two large armies, the Wakandian army with Black Panther, Falcon, Black Panther's sidekick, I can't remember her name, it starts with an O, Captain America with not a shield, but these Black Panther cat-like gauntlets, Black Widow, who's not Black Widow, Winter Soldier, Iron Patriot, and the Hulk. And again, in the fight scene when Falcon's shooting, we actually see the Hulkbuster armor. So that tells me that this is them winning that fight a little bit and pushing through. That's after the Hulkbuster armor was destroyed. So the fact that Hulk's here tells me, and Tony Stark, obviously there's no Iron Man suit or there's no Tony Stark, tells me that it is Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster outfit. And again, I don't believe anybody picked that up. Let me see this beautiful, beautiful logo. But then at the end, we see Thor interacting with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which again, we know that he is floating in space in the Comic-Con trailer. The Guardians run into him, literally fly into him. Rocket thinks it's a bug, so he's like, "Where's the windshield? Get it off!" And then Mantis brings him. I don't know if he's dead, but Mantis helps him come to. Now what's interesting is the Yondu replacement at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He's not seen in this scene, so I wonder where he could be. Maybe he's flying the ship. I don't know. But he's not here. And that's also James Gunn's brother, if you didn't know that. So that is our analysis and some things that you may have missed in the Avengers Infinity War trailer. The movie looks fantastic. I can't wait to see more. And I will just say, subscribe to podcast now if you're not a subscriber, because coming 2018, we are going to do something very large with the Avengers. And there's going to be many giveaways that are Marvel-based. And it's just going to be something that you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for and just be in the know for when we start. So definitely subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please like this video if you like the video. And leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And thank you for watching.